Welcome to MyLife, Chassidus Applied, episode 257. This is a special Yud Gimmel Nissan and Pesach edition, being that we are literally in the week of these extraordinary days. Yud Gimmel Nissan, of course, the 117th birthday of the Rebbe. This will be followed by Yud Gimmel Nissan, which is the yahrzeit of the Chassidic, 154 years, and of course Pesach, 3,331 years, which will begin at the end of this week. This program is dedicated in honor of Yitzchak ben Leah and Rivka Vika Bas Rachel, and their children Ruth, Nicole, and Michael. Thank you for all your help, and especially today. This will be the day, this program, when we will be announcing the 6th annual MyLife Chassidus Applied contest winners. This we'll be doing at the end of the program, so look forward to that. And we're all excited. A lot of work went into it. And I'll share more details as we get closer to the end of this program. And of course, no better way to honor Yud Gimmel Nissan than to present the winners, all the essayists who wrote ideas of Chassidus, applying it to life, the core mission of your mivtza chutza, which will bring Mashiach, as Mashiach told the Baal Shem Tov, and as the Rebbe so often emphasized numerous times, that this is the 7th generation that will conclude that process. So what better way, what better gift to give the Rebbe, as the Rebbe himself insisted that if you want to give him a gift in 1972, Tov Shel Lamed Beis and Shnas HaShivim, a gift should be connected to Torah, not just a matana, but connected to Torah. So what better gift than actual maimorim, essays, articles written by Chassidus and bringing it to life in our personal, addressing our personal issues in a relevant and meaningful way. So we'll begin with that, with Yud Gimmel Nissan. Yud Gimmel Nissan is this middle of this week. There's so much to say about it. I've spoken about it in the past. So of course, it's the birthday of the Rebbe. A birthday is not a small matter. We know we celebrate the birthday of the world. That's Rosh Hashanah. The 6th day, Chassidus explains why we don't celebrate Chafei El, or the other opinion, Chafei Adar. But the birthday of anything is the beginning of its existence. As the Rebbe wrote, and I've shared a number of times, in Tavshim Emches, when he came out with a campaign, the mivtza Yemeledis, in honor of the Rebbe Chaim Mushke, whose yahrzeit was, who passed away, Chav Bei Shvat. So Chafei Adar was her birthday. So the Rebbe came out then to make birthdays and institute them, and made it very clear, and wrote one of the edits that he wrote for an ad that went into the newspaper in Yiddish, that this is the most important day because this is the beginning of the being, of the very existence of a person. Without a birthday, nothing else would follow. So birthday is the beginning of it all. We see even Purim, when Haman thought that it was his luck, when the Geidel, the Pur, when he threw lots and it came out in the month of Adar, God forbid, the Gzeda that he wanted to do, so he thought he was happy because it was the month that was the month of the yahrzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu, Zayin Adar. But as the Gemara says, he didn't realize that it's also the birthday of Moshe Rabbeinu. Magdim Rafu Lamaka, the birthday. And the birthday actually gave the schus that Purim turned around. So with the power of a birthday, you can elaborate, but briefly, it's essentially the beginning of that entity. And in our case, it's our Rebbe. So the Day Rashvi and everything that the Rebbe brought to us, before his Nesias, but especially once he assumed the Nesias in Tavshin Yud Shvat, all began with Yud Gimmel Nissan. Now in truth, Yud Gimmel Nissan, in the earlier years, when the Rebbe turned 50, was Tavshin Yud Beis. It was more subdued. Some people knew of the birthday. Today we know, in retrospect, the Hayem Yem of Yud Gimmel Nissan is about a birthday. And what one should do at a birthday, the contemplation, the introspection necessary. So in Tavshin Yud Beis, the Rebbe Taka said a maimer on the kapitel Nun Alef, Adnai Sfosai Tiftach, but there was no Fabrengen. There are different directives the Rebbe gave about Pesach, but it wasn't what it would become in later years. In Tavshin Chav Beis, when the Rebbe turned 60, so the Rebbe had a Fabrengen, especially for Yud Gimmel Nissan, but 60, the Gemara says, and the Rebbe spoke at length, how someone who turned 60 made a special celebration, as the Gemara says one should do. And it was a beautiful Fabrengen. And then in Tavshin Lamed Alef, the year, the Shnas HaShivim, when the Rebbe would turn 70, the 70th year, that was the first time the Rebbe began on an ongoing basis. After that, every year was a maimer, was a Fabrengen Yud Gimmel Nissan. to the point that there's a zettel going around, a note from the Rebbe. Someone asked the Rebbe about traveling to Australia or traveling away from New York, and because of Pesach, they want to travel earlier. So the Rebbe said, what is the reason and the geschmack to leave here for Yud Alef Nissan? Geschmack means the pleasure. In other words, the Rebbe made the point that being by the Rebbe, Yud Alef Nissan, is significant. And the reason being because this is the birthday of the Rebbe. In Tovshem Mem Hey, 1985, Rebbe gave the classic psyche. It was a televised Farbrengen, where he began by saying, what is this thing about gathering together for an individual? We know that Chassidus makes such a fuss about arrogance and about not being pompous. And here's everyone's coming to celebrate an individual's birthday. And the Rebbe gave the answer with a story. He told the story of a Rav who was appointed in a city, a chashiva, a distinguished city, a rabbi, who was a knowledgeable rabbi, a scholar, was well loved, but he had one flaw. He was physically short, a klein shikr. So some of the people in the community felt it wasn't an honor for the community to have a short rabbi. So one of them asked the rabbi in a nice way, and the rabbi answered. He said, "The mensch is klein, but the benkel is grace. The person may be small, but the chair, the seat in which he sits is large." And the Rebbe says, so the celebration of the birthday is not just for an individual, it's for the tenuah, it's for the Chabad movement. And that's large. Now that itself, as humble as it sounds, and it is humble, also captures that the birthday is much more than just the individual, the Rebbe. As a human being, as an individual born to parents and family and so on. But it's the birthday of the entire movement that he represents. That's the power of Yud Alef Nissan. So in the context of Chassidus Applied, we have to ask ourselves, this is the day of Ar Nosi Hador, his birthday. And the Rebbe openly spoke about it. What are we doing on this birthday? How do we honor it? So the Rebbe gave us directives in general about birthdays, but specifically around the Rebbe's birthday, as I said earlier, to do something in Torah. So in Tovshem Mem Beis, when the Rebbe turned 80, we had this chus, we wrote into the Rebbe around Chanukah time. I know it's surprising that early, that is the honor of the 80th birthday coming up in a few months. We'd like to do something, and we suggested publishing all the Maimorim, the discourses that the Rebbe said in connection with Yud Alef Nissan. The Rebbe responded and wrote that there's no time for him to be magia to edit it, ein hazman groma. So suggest something that does not need my editing. The only time I ever received such the Rebbe writing, suggest something. So you can imagine what I did was, I relentlessly went and asked every person I could reach and asked them, what do they suggest? The Rebbe is saying, suggest something for his 80th birthday. So I got together from different opinions and finally wrote to the Rebbe a few weeks later that the consensus, speaking to many people, is to publish a sefer, which would be, part of the sefer would be a kavitz Torah. Torah, we knew of course Torah would be connected to everything around birthday, around 80 years, different pieces in Chazal, in Chassidus, Ya'aleh, the Tzemach Tzedek's explanations on the kapitel of Pei Alef, 81, that we began saying that year. That's what I wrote. And the second half of the book would be a type of journal, which would be a collection of articles and like somewhat of an album of activities and pu'ulas and initiatives that the Rebbe initiated throughout his Nesius. The Rebbe responded, he crossed out the second half and said, Ach v'rak kevitz terani. It should be only a kevitz of Torah. And he actually added to the numbers we wrote, he added a few other things to include into this book, which became Kevitz Yud Alef Nissan. But then on the bottom of the page, the Rebbe wrote his suggestion. What was his suggestion? To publish a special edition of Tanya. And in detail, the Rebbe itemized exactly what this Tanya should be like. It should have in it at the back all the sharblots, all the cover pages of Tanyas printed up to that point, wherever they were printed. What color it should be, how many bendlech, how many bookmarks should be in it. Literally a detailed description. No one knew that the Rebbe, Yud Alef Nissan, would actually distribute this Tanya. All night till the wee hours of the morning. It was already getting light and people were even coming to receive Tanyas then. So this was the schus, I would say a schus that we had, a schus l'tata that we made. And then the Rebbe said, suggest something. We did. And then the Rebbe went in inimitable fashion and made his suggestion, which of course was the Rebbe's direct suggestion. Now, he may have suggested it anyway, but you see the Rebbe's approach in general, his whole leadership, which I've discussed many times, Aveda b'koyach atzmei, that the Rebbe gives and gives, but he wants us to take initiative. So what better opportunity and a way to honor and celebrate Yud Gimmel Nissan is to take initiative. Not just to fulfill directives, but do something perhaps in a creative way, in an original way. Obviously, to be Mekayim, fulfill the Shiyurim that the Rebbe designated, including Chitas from the Friedrich Rebbe, Rambam, as well as the Rebbe's directive, mivtza and other things. And of course, above all, Mashiach. The Rebbe gave us the job, I did everything, you do what you can. Again, telling us, you do what you can. Without question, then I, the Rebbe, will do what I have to do to finish the job. So Yud Gimmel Nissan is essentially a day, just as the Rebbe, a day of introspection for all of us, a Nosi, Ador, Neshama Klolis, of how we connect to the Rebbe in practical ways and following the Rebbe's teachings and directives. And there's much to read, much to learn. You can just open up any sefer where you read the Rebbe's Amorim or the Rebbe's Siches, especially connected to Yud Gimmel Nissan or Pesach. And Pesach, of course, is also connected to a birthday. Many of the Rebbe's letters around Pesach is around Leidas Am Yisrael, because Pesach is considered the birth, the collective birth of the Jewish nation. So Breishis brought Elikim Eshmayim V'Sa'aretz. Rosh Hashanah is the birthday of the human race. Bochar Be'elomei. But Bochar Be'Yakov Abonov is Chedesh HaGeula, Chedesh Nissan. And that's when the Rebbe is born, just days, literally, within 4 days, even less than 4 days before Pesach. Okay, so now, since it's also Yud Gimmel Nissan, which is always a day before Pesach, it's a Tzemach Tzedek's yard site. So the Tzemach Tzedek, of course, the Rebbe is named after the Tzemach Tzedek, and Ben Achar Ben from the Tzemach Tzedek. And there's many parallels. I'll just share one point. In Tavshin Chavov, when we celebrated and honored the 100 years of, I don't know if the word celebrated is right, the 100 years of the Istalkus of the Tzemach Tzedek, the Rebbe then gave out a letter for that Pesach, a very powerful letter, and talks about all the greatness of the Tzemach Tzedek and how we can all learn from it, because all of us have a little me'enza, a little subtle, not of course in the full-fledged fashion, but some subtle way that we can derive lessons from the Tzemach Tzedek. But then the Rebbe says, how can anybody compare to a Rebbe? And the Rebbe responds with a mashal, an example that a drop of water, even a small drop of water, reflects the entire sun, just like the ocean does. Meaning each of us is like a drop of water, and even a drop of water can reflect the entire sun, meaning the Rebbe. However, there are 3 conditions. The drop has to be clear, has to be clean, rein, klor, und sein kegen de zun, which means it has to be clean, not dirty. It has to be rein, pure, transparent, and has to face the sun. The lesson in that is very obvious, that each of us can reflect the Rebbe, but number one, we have to get ourselves out of the way. You have to be clean. You have to be able to reflect it. You have to be rein. You have to be clean. You have to be clear, which means transparent, and get your ego out of the way, and so on. And then you have to also face the skashus. You have to face the sun. You have to, in other words, be a reflector that reflects the Rebbe's words, be the arms and legs and the mouthpiece of the Rebbe. And then, even a little drop, each one of us can reflect the whole Rebbe. Very powerful statement in the letter of before Pesach, Tovshin Chavov, 1966. Now, we're also coming to Pesach, of course, so let's talk about Pesach. Chassidus Applied to Pesach. Okay. Well, one more thing before Pesach, this is the Rebbe kocht sich a lot in the Rambam. The Rambam's birthday is also this week. When? Yud Gimmel Nissan, Erev Pesach. One of the few people that we know exactly when he was born, even the time. So the Rebbe spoke very often in later years, especially after the Takone, where the Rebbe established the learning of Rambam, that right before Pesach comes the Rambam. So here you have the Rebbe's birthday, a few days later the Rambam's birthday. So the parallels are obvious in many ways, how the Rebbe gathered together Kol HaTeira Kula, like the Rambam did, and of course the Rebbe's koch in the Rambam, especially in the later years from Mem Dalet Pesach, Mem Dalet Pesach. Achrosh Pesach is when the Rebbe came out about the learning of the Rambam every day, Mishnah Torah, the 3 chapters a day, or 1 chapter a day, or Sefer HaMitzvahs. So it would include all Klal Yisrael. And what was the Rebbe's point? That Rambam includes Kol HaTeira Kula, even Hilchos of the Mashiach. Shulchan Aruch does not include the laws of Mashiach. and the laws of Beis HaMikdash. And the second thing is that's Achdus, when all Jews learn, whether it's Anoshim, Noshim, V'taf, everyone in their level, you unite the entire Jewish people together with the union of the Torah. That was the key points that Rebbe made, which of course battles the divisiveness and the fragmentation that was the cause of Golus. So we know B'Nisan Nigalu, B'Nisan Asidin Ligal. The Jews were redeemed in the month of Nisan, and they will be redeemed in this Chedesh HaGeula. The Rambam brings unity. Achdus brings Geula. Learning of the Torah brings Geula, and the unity of all the Jewish people learning the same thing is all about unity. This is one of the driving forces of the Rebbe, uniting people from all backgrounds, regardless of affiliation, regardless of who they come from, where they come from, all Eden. All the Jews are part of one entity, one organism. And the Rambam, it's emphasized in the Rambam himself, in the learning of the Rambam and the union of Kol HaTorah, and especially when all Jews learn that Torah. So it's not a surprise that it's on Erev Pesach. As we prepare for the Geula of Pesach, we enter in with the Rambam, and before that with the Tzemach Tzedek's Histalkus, and before that the birthday of the Rebbe. This year, Kuf Yud Zayin, meaning we're beginning Kapitel Kuf Yud Ches, Heidul Hashem Kitev Ki Leilam Chazdei. And of course the biggest Heidul Hashem Kitev is the gift that God sent us, a Rebbe, to give us directives and to teach us what is the mission of our generation. What greater Heidul Hashem Kitev Ki Leilam Chazdei. Of course we want it to be Leilam Chazdei in a way that begili, that we should be zeichet to be together with the Rebbe again, with the Geula Amitis Vashlema. As far as Pesach itself goes, again, lessons are numerous, and we've discussed it in the previous years, Chassidus Applied. So let me share one thought from Pesach, of course from the Rebbe himself, the different meanings of Pesach. One of the things, Pesach, is the word Pesach from the word Dilug, Vikfitza. That Eibishter would leap over the doors of the Eden that were marked. So in Chassidus it explains that Medalig al Ahorim and Mekapetz al Agvois, that there's two ways of Aveda. There's an Aveda where you walk step by step. Then there's Aveda, there's a service where you leap. In leaping itself, there's leaping with one leg, meaning one leg is in the air and one leg is on the ground. And then there's leaping with both legs. And that's Dilug and Kvitza, two different types of leaping. What does it mean in our Aveda? So we have the Pasuk, Mahalchim Beina Eimdim. It says about Neshamas, Chassidus explains in Terah in Miketz and other places, that Neshamas compared to angels are Mahalchim, they're travelers among those that stand. So those that stand stationary, they're travelers among them. What is it signifying? That Malachim, as much as they are passionate about God, and there's a Seraphim who burn up in passion, in fiery passion, and there's a Fanim, there's a Chayes HaKedesh, and there's a Fanim, but they still have their path, which is a hiluch. It's a hiluch, step by step by step, in their path. Malach Machol is always Chesed. Malach Gavriel is always Gevura. Malach Rafal is always Refuah. And each one has their path. When it comes on Neshama, especially when it comes down below, has the ability to be Mahalchim Beina Eimdim. It can walk, and not just walk, but leap. And a Mahalach means that you can leap to new places. So a Malach can achieve what it achieves, but it cannot go to new unprecedented places. It's only the descent of a soul to this world, and a Malach does not have that power. In this lowest of worlds, that catapults it to places that are unprecedented. Halicha, and coming Pesach, not just Halicha, but also Dalig Mekapetz, leaping with one leg and leaping with two legs. So it's really about indicating the power and the potential that each of us has. Poka Igra, the Rebbe says. On Pesach, you say Poka Igra until the roof itself is completely blown away. That's the power of Pesach, the ability to go transcendence, beyond our limitations. Pesach, of course, Yitzias Mitzrayim, Mitzarim is Mitzarim v'Gvulim. Mitzarim v'Gvulim. Every constraint, every inhibition, every fear, every insecurity, every challenge we face is our Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is not just a land called Egypt. It comes from that root. And that's why we can be told that every generation and every day, as the Alter Rebbe adds in Tanya, we have to envision as we left Mitzrayim. But Mitzrayim, most of us have never been to Egypt. There was barely a few Jews left there. So the meaning is to leave Mitzrayim v'Gvulim. The physical Egypt we've left and we've never returned there. But the spiritual constraints is something that we are always commanded to do, and especially on Pesach, Every day is Zeichel Yitzis Mitzrayim. But especially on Pesach, by the Seder, we recreate it. We actually recreate Hayom Ha'el and Niskarim V'Nasim. You recreate the same transcendence, not the same, but like a spiral, but on a new dimension, a new level, which is essentially the concept of Pesach, Dilug Kvitza, transcendence. So the simple language, it means that whatever you have done till now, you have much more capacity than you believe. People say, you know what? A lot of people say, as I get older, I slow down. The exact opposite. The Rebbe Shnas Hashivim, when he turned 70, and he said that people are writing to me, I should retire. Time has come. You've done so much. The Rebbe says, what? You don't measure a person's age by the passport. And every day that Hashem gives you means that you have to grow, not just continue. And the Rebbe demonstrated in physical action. After 1972, the growth of the Rebbe's activities and initiatives doubled and tripled. Even after the heart attack in 1978, look what happened afterwards. You can't even compare. So it's always a process of Dilug and Kvitz of Pesach, going beyond. So you'll say, where do we have that strength? Well, when you don't give in and succumb to your own fears and to your own resignation and to your own lack of confidence, then, and you tie yourself to a Rebbe who helps lift you up to another place, and you go with that shlichus, you can achieve wonders. You can achieve things that you never would imagine. But you have to have that persistence and that fortitude and that commitment. And then you're lifted to places that you can go beyond your own imagination, a real Pesach, Dilug v'Kvitze. That's one of the many lessons that Pesach offers us, taken from some of the Rebbe's letters and sichos on the topic. And Tov Shalom Advov, the Rebbe kochzach a lot on this, the year Pesach and the letters as well as the sichos, and many other times. Okay, so with that, let me give some cross-references. Cross-references for those that you may have you not familiar. This is episode 257. So you can imagine the 256 previous episodes, we've spoken about many of these topics, different angles. So they're all archived in a very rich and full array of materials and resources that you can access at meaningfullife.com/mylife. And there you'll find all the previous episodes, and they're all with top by topic. And in the YouTube version, you can actually get the timestamp, so you can go straight, the hyperlink straight to the topic you're looking for. So with that said, the topics that, the issues that we spoke about, first of all, Yud Alef Nissan, I've spoken about in episode 62, 112, 157, 207. Yud Gimmel Nissan, that's the Stalkus of the Tzemach Tzedek, 158 and 207. And Pesach, 12, 13, 62, 157, 158, and 207. Okay. Now, in the spirit of Pesach, a question came in, so we'll start doing some questions, which was what we always do. A question about Chol Hamoed. So there's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, Perek Gimel, Mishnah Yud Alef. What does the Mishnah say? So the question is, why is it that one forfeits their share in the world to come for not respecting Chol Hamoed, as stated in Pirkei Avos? Is that worse than idolatry, adultery, and other major sins where one doesn't lose their world to come? Since we're going into Pesach, and of course next week will be Yontif, and there won't be a program, so I thought appropriate to address this, especially that the Chassidus question of last week, and this, continuing later in this program this week, is about olam haba. So the Mishnah says the following, Rabbi Lezer Amadoy Emer, and he mentions 5 different things. The one this question is referring to as Hamavaz Umavaza as Hamoyedes, one who embarrasses, meaning he does not keep the Moyedes. Moyedes means Yom Tov, but as the Rav Bartanur explains, Moyedes Yom Shal Chol Hamoed Eisa Behen Melacha. Because it's a given. Obviously, someone that's Mavaza the Yom Tov, you don't need Milsa the Chassidus Mishnah and Pirkei Avos to tell you it's a problem. That's an outright Aveda. But even Chol Hamoed, which is a day that the Jews accept not to do Melacha, even though technically you're allowed to do it, the Rav says, the Bartanura, that he eats minig chel, you're eating like it's a regular day in eating and drinking. That's called Mavaza es Hamoyedes. And then there are 5 other things that he mentions. So of course the question is, why is that such a strict thing, that to the extent that ein lechelik le'olam haba? So the Rebbe spoke about this among the many times that Rebbe explained after the Shabbosim between Pesach and Shavuos, and then continuing and throughout the summer, according to the custom to continue saying Pirkei Avos every Shabbos till Rosh Hashanah. The Rebbe spoke about this in Tov Shalamet Ches, Mitzvah Shabbos Pashav Shlach. That year, Farbrengens were on Mitzvah Shabbos because of the heart attack. The doctors wanted the Rebbe to exert himself less. So this is a sikha from Shlach. And what does the Rebbe say? He says, what is, first of all, the common denominator between these 5 things? Briefly, he says they all indicate something that is done by Maisi Yedei Adam, not Maisi Yedei Shemayim. Like Moed. The Moed, what designates a holiday? Shabbos is Mekatshe V'Kaima. Every 7th day, God, according to the cycle, the way God created it, will be Shabbos. But Moedes are designated by Bezdin based on the Kiddush HaChedesh, by the Eidim that see when the Chedesh. Today we know the calculations, but in Inyan, it's Yisrael Mekatshim es Azmanim, Mekadesh Yisrael v'Azmanim. That Yisrael idn are Mekadesh the Yontif. So this, as well as the other 4 items, which I'm not going to go into detail, it's not relevant to our discussion, are all based on Maisi Yedei Adam. That's the Nekudah Mishutefes. Therefore, that's the reason it affects Maharis, it undermines and affects an Inya Klali which the Eibishter set up. Now, what is the point? The point is that we have to take the mundane world and turn it into holiness. When you are mavaza that, meaning you defile that, or you shame it by not fulfilling that, it's not a small detail. You're not fulfilling the purpose of your life. Olam haba is the fulfillment, the schar, of that purpose. And that's why it's not a detail, it's considered something that's touching the core mission of the human being to make a dir b'tachtenim. And that Rebbe goes on to explain all 5. And that's why that's why the Mishnah says, midah keneged midah. When you do something that affects your whole purpose of mission, which is transforming the world, it affects something so general. The Rebbe's word, it's not just a simple, a detailed sin, which deserves a certain punishment, but it becomes something fundamental and affects the whole olam haba. But as we shall discuss later in the program, this does not mean that you don't have a chelik completely. It means that you have to do a tshuva on it. And there's different meanings in what means ein lechelik olam haba, because at the end of the day, the big question is, how could a soul lose its share in the world to come? A soul is eternal. Even if it sins, the soul does not get damned, God forbid, the soul does not get damaged. So we'll discuss that later. But that's the explanation. So Chol Hamoed, though it's not a mitzvah daraisa, but since it's the fulfillment of taking a day of mundane day, it's like a Chol Hamoed of the Yom Tov, but technically it's mundane compared to the holiday. When you touch that, it has a certain power, because you're touching upon something that lies at the core of your mission. And even though obviously being Mavaza Yom Tov is more strict, but it does not have that element of fulfilling what you are supposed to be accomplishing. That's part of what comes from above. Okay. With that, let's go to the next question. Someone asked a question which I decided to do this week because of Yud Gimmel Nissan. Hi Rab Simon, was machst du? How are you? A couple of weeks ago, I was by the oil and was watching a video of a Farbrengen where the Rebbe was speaking about the mivtza, the campaign, buying a letter in the Sefer Torah HaKloli. It's a general collective Sefer Torah scroll. The video must have been from 81 or 82 when the mivtza came out. So I decided to buy letters in the Sefer Torah for myself and my immediate family. My question to you is the mivtza still in place? And is the mivtza of buying an os in a Sefer Torah only in the Sefer Torah HaKloli, which means the collective one, or in the Sefer Torah Yaldi Yisrael, another Sefer Torah that the Rebbe designated for children, which we'll talk about in a moment? Or you can buy a letter in any Sefer Torah. Also, can you speak a little about how the Rebbe came out with a mivtza? And the difference of Sefer Torah Yaldi Yisrael and the Sefer Torah HaKloli. Also, please talk about the mivtza and the Torah writing of Sefer Torah, and how you yetzer by buying a letter in the Torah. Okay, very good. So, briefly, let's begin with the mitzvah itself. Atu kisvo, considered one of the Taryag mitzvahs by most of the mania mitzvahs who count mitzvahs. That is actually the 612th mitzvah, to write a Sefer Torah. So there's a whole footnote from the Rebbe that the Rebbe wrote actually on a letter that the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote by Achnosa Sefer Torah years ago in the Tzaddiks. And the Rebbe writes a order because that posuk, some people teach it's as mitzvah on the Melech to write a Sefer Torah. But, as I said, the consensus is a mitzvah on each person to write a Sefer Torah. In Tovshim Mem Alef, in Kislev, Tezvav Kislev, there was a special farbrengen about a Sefer Torah that was a Siyum Sefer Torah in Kfar Chabad. And the Rebbe designated a whole farbrengen with a Maimer and the Sichas Muge. And a lot of it is based on that letter of the Frierdiker Rebbe of making a celebration like Simchas Torah, as we see when a Sefer Torah is finished, how we honor and celebrate it. So yes, there is a mitzvah to write a Sefer Torah, but Ha'idna today, since not everybody can write it, not everybody can afford to write it, by buying an os and a Sefer Torah, you become a partner, and through that you can fulfill the mitzvah. The footnotes are all there in that sikha, and in the letter, where you can see the details of that aspect of it, regarding the etzaminyan. Okay, but that's the Sefer Torah that we write on a regular basis when a shul needs a new Sefer Torah. In Tov Shem Mem Alef, Yud Alef Nissan, the Rebbe's 79th birthday, the Rebbe came out in that farbrengen about children. It was a few months after the establishment of Tzivus Hashem, the children's movement that the Rebbe established. And the Rebbe gave a whole talk about it would be worthwhile that the Rebbe, that it should establish the writing of a Sefer Torah for all children all over the world. And the children should buy us by $1, not more. The Rebbe gave all kinds of directives that you should also have some adults buy to make sure that the mitzvah is fulfilled properly. And he gave details, in detailed details, in that farbrengen and the farbrengens after Pesach, about how that Sefer Torah should be written. It should be written in Kfar Chabad. It should be established, in Kfar Chabad, and written in Yerushalayim, in the Tzemach Tzedek Shul. And then the siyum should be, the Rebbe wanted it before Rosh Hashanah, to begin immediately, and before Rosh Hashanah, right before Rosh Hashanah, the birthday of the Tzemach Tzedek, which is the 29th of Elul. And they ended up doing it by Chafov, the Rebbe's father's yahrzeit. And the Rebbe obviously was happy with that and spoke then as well about the Sefer Torah, designated a whole bunch of sichos and sent a shliach, the Rav of the Rebbe's, the Crown Heights Rav, Rav Zalman Shimon Dvorkin, the Rebbe sent to the Siyum HaTorah, Sefer Torah, for the children. Now, this campaign was embraced with enthusiasm, and all over the world, they were able to sell 304,805 letters of this Sefer Torah, the first Sefer Torah. As I said, it was completed Chafov of that year, Tavshin Mem Alef, and the last letters were written in the Tzemach Tzedek Shul, in the Ir Atik, in the old city of Yerushalayim. Good. He also brought from the Rebbe, Rabbi Dvorkin, $1,200, which was to use for the writing, the ink, and the parchment. The Rebbe also paid for 2 mantles of white and blue and sent a separate amount of money for charity. He also sent mashke with the Rav. There should be a farbrengen there that was given to the Rebbe from a farbrengen that was in Russia. Okay, many thousands of people attended. Now, since then, there have been many more Sefer Torah written, and here's the exact number. We are now, yes, the second Sefer Torah was completed in the summer of 1986, the third in 1995, the fourth in 2005, the fifth in 2012, and the sixth just 3 years ago, in 2016. So this mivtza continues on to the point of getting every Jewish child to buy an Osir Sefer Torah. The total now, by now, let me see if they have a total here. There must be a total. Yeah, 1,828,800 Jewish children have actually bought us, but there's many more. So go to kidstorah.org, where you can sign up a child, let other people know about it, and it has all the details about the mivtza and all the other aspects of it. Rabbi Shmuel Greisman, a shliach and an activist in Eretz Yisrael, heads this. Gracious Shekeach, they're continuing it, and the mivtza is obviously in full force, like all the Rebbe's campaigns in mivtza. Regarding the Sefer Torah clothing, that same year, a little later in the year, Erev Rosh Hashanah Take, the Rebbe spoke that now is also time to make a Sefer Torah clothing for all the Eden that are not children, for people after Bar Mitzvah and Bas Mitzvah. And then began the mivtza of Sefer Torah clothing in the end of 1981, going into end of Tov Shem Mem Alef, I should say, going into 1982, Tov Shem Mem Beis, with that year that Rebbe spoke about it numerous times. And that too is a fully active campaign with the goal of reaching every Jew, everyone, because every Yisrael Zoshatevis Yesh Shishim Ribe Esis LaTorah. Every Jew has an os in the Torah, as the Rebbe explains at length in that Sikha of Tezvav Kislev, Tovshin Mem Alef. Every Jew has an os. His os is his chayis, is his life. So an os and a Torah connecting to that in a way brings a person life. Chayenu ve'erech yomenu. And that's the Sefer Torah Klali. So I hope I did justice to at least a general overview. And another thing connected, of course, to Yud Aleph Nissan back then in Tov Shem Aleph. And then, as I said, continuing through the Sefer Torah Klali through the year Mem Beis and continues till this day. Okay. So we covered Sefer Torah. Now, in the last weeks, we've been talking about davening. Davening is a central pillar in Chassidus, in Torah B'chlal, V'avadtem es Hashem Elokeichem. But especially Chassidus, V'ashavesa levavecha v'yadaita hayem. V'ashavesa levavecha v'yadaita hayem is learning Chassidus, knowing godliness, learning godliness, to the point of yediyah. And then it should affect your heart. V'ashavesa levavecha, ezu aveda shebelev. What's the service of the heart? That is tefillah. So what we've been doing is going a little piece every week about davening, first of all, to emphasize its importance, and secondly, to answer questions, many questions that have come in this topic, and to continue the episodes that we've talked about this in the past. Really began in this series in episode 252, all the way now till 257. But I've already indicated in previous episodes we've discussed this at length. So one more question I'm going to address today, and then we'll move on to the next topic. And that is, let us suppose I learn about the difference between Seviv and Mamala. Someone's writing. Seviv and Mamala, of course, are two terms used in Chassidus. Seviv is transcendent energy. Mamala is immanent energy. Think of it, Seviv and Mamala being the energy that is integrated and internalized within us in existence. Seviv is literally, Seviv means surrounds, as the Alter Rebbe explains in Tiny. It doesn't mean surrounds around, it means it's beyond. It transcends us. So in the faculties of the human being, the Eser Keiches HaNefesh, the 10 faculties, are Mamala Kalaman. Each faculty in its place, Chochmah, Bina, Das, in the mind, Chagas, in the heart. You have different faculties like the eye, the seeing in the eye, hearing in the ear. These are called Chushim. But basically all the faculties of Keiches Pnimim internalize Mamala Kalaman type of energies. Then there's the two faculties that are called Makifim, Rotzen and Tainug. Will or desire and pleasure. These are not localized in one particular part of the body. They are all-encompassing. They are transcendent energies. So let's go back to the question. So let us suppose I learn about the difference between Seviv and Mamala. What do I do with that while I'm davening? Let us suppose I'm learning about the Kav. The Kav, of course, is the line or ray of light, the thread of light. It's actually Mamala Kalam that came after the Tzimtzum. That is measures and designates tailored amount of energy to each part of the cosmic order. What do I do with that while davening? Frankly, I don't even know how learning about the Kav is to be personalized at all. At least when learning about the 4 elements, the 4 worlds, I have over the years, post-yeshiva, developed some understanding how this is reflected in the Keiches HaNefesh, in the faculties of the soul. Once you go beyond that, I have no idea how to personalize it, and surely not how to daven with it. Okay, well, you've come to the right place, because this is exactly what the whole purpose of this program is, attempting to personalize and apply all the ideas of Chassidus. There's no reason that we have a Kav and all these levels if it's not meant to be personalized in our life. God didn't need a Kav. The whole Seder Shtasus was created for us to have tools and to have stepping stones by which to connect to Hashem. And we do that by davening. Davening is the 4 rungs, the 4 stages of prayer, is a journey through the worlds, through Mamala Kalam, to Seviv Kalam, to the Kav, to the Igel HaGadol, to levels before the Tzimtzum. That's the journey. So let's briefly talk about, and I've spoken about the personalization and application of the Kav and of Mamala Kalam, Seviv Kalam, briefly. Mamala Kalam is every time you focus on the divine that relates to you. We say, La'avas Hashem Elokecha, to love God, ki hu chayecha, because He's your life, He's your sustenance. That's Mamala Kalam in general. Why? Because you relate to it. It's like if someone gives you life, someone gives you a gift, you can acknowledge it. That's Mamala Kalam. So when you're mizbein and davening about God's sustaining you, providing you with the needs you need for survival, for growth, for thriving, and so on, and to your family, that's Mamala Kalam. When you think about the divine that's beyond us, Roma Kol Goyim, you say, Hashem. Or you speak about levels that are Nizgav Shmei Levade, or Adene Elam, Terem Kol, before creation or beyond creation, there you're focusing on the sense of awe that's aroused and stimulated due to realizing that God is beyond just being a provider for our needs. God is not just mamalakalam, not just a likim, but havaya, something beyond. When it came to Yetzias Mitzrayim, for example, shmi havaya, le'nadaiti lehem to the ovis. But to take the Eden out of Mitzrayim, you needed a transcendent force to take us out of the limitations and constraints of this world. So that's the Izbarnus and davening when you're concentrating on things that are beyond our tangible or our palpable experience. For example, in V'ahavtas Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol meidecha. B'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha is generally mamalakalam, with your heart, with your spirit. B'chol meidecha is with your beyond, with all your might, with me'id, beyond you. That would be relative to the first two, Sevev Kalaman. So it's just about personalizing it and understanding its relationship to us. The kav is essentially a form of mamala kalaman, a very intense energy, but it's a kav, which means there's a top and there's a bottom, milo mata, because it creates hierarchy in existence. What it means to us is the energy that penetrates and is integrated and internalized in existence. So it's essentially a bonus on mamala kalaman. That's a brief summary, and hopefully you could daven with that. And of course, there's a lot more. This is just a summary, a tip of the iceberg, as they say. Let me do a follow-up, and then we'll do the Chassidus question, and then comes the big announcements. So, we had follow-up last week. I spoke about internet addictions. So, there's quite a few follow-ups. I'll see how much I can cover here. Number one. Dear Rabbi Jacobson, just a few comments about the topic of internet addiction, which was spoken about last week in episode 256. Number one, you mentioned about Hesach Hadas. Hesach Hadas means to distract yourself, to move your das away from this topic. However, some people take that out of context and forget about dealing with the actual issue which causes them to fall again. Number two, someone asked you whether reaching 90 days of being clean breaks his addiction. I've been clean way longer than that, but unfortunately fell again after that. And it's a lifelong fight. And I think it's important for people to know, even though they haven't fell in a long time, that doesn't mean they're safe, and one needs to constantly be on the offense and vigilant. Number three, usually people turn to inappropriate internet usage because they have underlying issues causing them to watch and do inappropriate stuff, as they don't feel good about themselves. And even though someone is working on stopping, he has to be honest with himself and figure out what's really bothering him and deal with the cause as opposed to the symptoms. You really summed up last week what someone needs to do to break free. You mentioned talking to someone, and personally that's how I'm doing it. Okay, Baruch Hashem. The first thing I told my mashpia, my mentor, when we first spoke was, I have this issue. I definitely was shaking, changing colors, and it was a difficult move to make. It took a long time to get myself to open up. And I did it simply because talking to someone is vital to break free. Thanks so much for your amazing series and hard work you put into it. Kosher and Freilich and Pesach. So I don't have much comment. Yes, Hesach Hadas has to be understood properly. Obviously, if there's an issue, you can't have Hesach Hadas. Hesach Hadas means that when it comes, you shouldn't dwell on it and become something you're consumed with. Move your mind to other things, especially things that are not connected to this thought. Just one, I think I mentioned that last week and many other times. Another person writes, in response to inappropriate content addictions, okay, you know what, because this is a long one, I'm going to stop here and we'll do it, Mitzvah Hashem, after Pesach. Yeah, there are two more that are longer, so we'll deal with it. There was one more follow-up about happiness. I listened to your talk on happiness. This is a talk not on MyLife, in another series. If you go to our MyLife channel, you'll see I spoke to happiness to the students in one of the schools. I wrote to the Beis Rivka girls. So I listened to your talk on happiness that you have to the Beis Rivka girls. I was particularly taken by your quote from the Rebbe, not delving into tzaris, into negative, into pains, but just empowering that you can get past the challenges. Thank you. So it's really a thank you. And it focuses, again, always focusing on the positive. Not because we don't know there's a negative, but that's the approach, especially the Rebbe's approach. Light dispels darkness, even a little. And that's a general approach in every issue that we deal with. Now, obviously, something has to be dealt with because, God forbid, it's a disease or some other challenge. You need to deal with it. But a tremendous tool in dealing with it is not fighting the darkness, but bringing more light into your life, into your mind, into your heart, into your thought, speech, and action, which are naturally and automatically, as the Alter Rebbe says in chapter 12 in Tanya, Alef, naturally dispels any darkness. Okay. Now let's do Chassidus question, which is a follow-up to last week. How to explain Kodesh, that's an additional point, that some people will not have a share, and that some people will not have a share in the olam haba, in the world to come, when every soul is immortal. So last week I spoke about what olam haba was. I spoke about the general principle, and I also spoke about the fundamental principle that the Ramban, Nachmanides, writes that there's no such thing as a neshama ultimately cut off or no share in the world to come, because a neshama is nitzchi. It wasn't created, so it can't die, it can't be cut off. It's divine by nature, and it's immortal by nature. So then how do you explain Kodesh? And how do you explain Elam Chelik Le'elam Haba? So I pointed out that there's a letter from the Rebbe, a fascinating letter, in Chelik Alef Igris Kedesh, where the Rebbe speaks about this. And in this letter, the letter is page 141 in volume 1. And the Rebbe speaks about this directly. I'm just going to sum up key points. And if you like, if you send me an email or use the forum, which is an anonymous forum at meaningfullife.com/mylife, you'll find, you could just post anything there anonymously, but if you add your email, we'll send you, I wrote up a summary in English of this letter of the Rebbe, which I summarized in, well, it's not so summaries, it's a good few pages, but explaining the letter, or rather I should say, translating and some explanation of the letter. So the Rebbe speaks about all the contradictions regarding this matter. Can a soul be cut off? Can a soul not have a share in the world to come? So the Rebbe breaks the letter into 3 parts. First, explaining as Efsher Hadover. It's possible that even the Rishonim that says about them some of the worst punishments, they also capable of returning and having a share in the world to come. Then the second part of the letter, the Rebbe speaks about people, not just Efshariyas Hadover, but that'll actually be that way. That's the second part of the letter. Not just it's possible, but it will actually be that way. And the third part of the letter, that you must say it will be that way. You see here also the Rebbe's tremendous organization in building a case for this. And what's the brief nukudah? As I said before, that the Ramban writes that a soul is immortal. So then how do we explain all this? The answer is, when you say Kodesh, v'nichnas ha'nefesh, Kodesh can mean for a period of time until the soul is cleansed, and then it can be reconnected. Like anything, like a person, let's say, does not have oxygen. That doesn't mean they can't regain having oxygen. They have to clean up the system, get rid of the blockages, and then they can regain. Even on a deeper level where some say that Kodesh is permanent, it could be Kodesh from this way, this neshama as it entered this body. That's Elam Chelik Le'elam Haba. But perhaps in another body, the same neshama could have a Chelik in Elam Haba. And the Rebbe brings sources from Emek HaMelech, and from Kabbalah, from Chassidus, and obviously from Nigla as well, to explain that. And the reason that you must say that is because Hivtei Torah, Shesef Yisrael Ases Shuva B'Seif Galusa, the Rambam says. The same Rambam in Perek Ches, in Hilchos Shuva, says about the element that a person could end up not having any world to come. So the Rebbe says, first of all, it's a Das Yochid. He's the only one that says it, and the consensus is not like that. Second of all, even as a Das Yochid, you could still explain that this too will be as a result of not that particular person, but it will come back into Elam Haba of a different body. So it could be a person, it's like sometimes, let's say, God forbid, a person gets burned. So sometimes the burn can heal. Like I said, the first approach. But sometimes the burn is so deep you can't heal. Let's say even the organ gets damaged, you have to even amputate. But that does not mean that the nefesh inside that organ is severed. The nefesh has to go into another place, and there it could be fully functional. So it all depends on what kind of Aveda it is. When you say Kol Yisrael Yesh Lem Chelik Le'elam Haba, then you say Ve'elu She'ein, seems like a contradiction. You can't say Kol, it should have said Yisrael Yesh Lem Chelik Le'elam Haba, Chutz. It says every Yisrael has Chelik Le'elam Haba. Then it says Ve'elu She'ein Lehem. So you have to say it doesn't contradict because every neshama will have Elam Haba. The question is in what form and fashion. That's the brief take on it and the brief explanation. As I said, look in the letter and you'll find it more detail. And the Rebbe speaks about it in a very, very, very powerful way. As I said, it's a long letter. I'm just looking for one particular quote. Yeah, so the Rebbe brings Med Shmuel, there's the Alshich, there's Emek HaMelech, the Shar Tikuni HaTshuva from the Rizal. I'm sorry, that's from Emek HaMelech, I'm sorry. And then there's Arizal and Shar Golgulim. And many other sources. As I said, I'll be happy to send them to you. And the English version of it, and the letter I pointed out where that is. So, of course, it's relevant to us because the Rebbe, Alef Nissan, the Rebbe's birthday, what was the biggest focus of the Rebbe? That every Jew has to be found. Atam tluklo echad echad b'nei Yisrael. Every single Jew. There's so many Jews that have wandered off, God forbid. So many Jews who are teneka shenishbu, meaning that they're like children that were brought up or in hostage, taken hostage, and never even knew what Yiddishkeit was. The Rebbe came up, of course, and said in the early years that the Seder talks about all the children, even the Eni Dei Elisha doesn't ask questions, but there's a fifth child, the one that doesn't even come to the Seder. And even that child we have to reach. So the emphasis that every neshama is eternal and immortal, and we have to find that neshama, even if it doesn't look externally that neshama is still connected, there's no such thing as disconnected. So this theme, obviously, it's appropriate why the Rebbe would write a whole essay and discussion on this in order to make the case and explain how the case and both the theology of it and the philosophy of it and the halacha, how every neshama is ultimately part of godliness and will always be that way, one way or another. Le'yidach memenu nidach. Okay. With that now, my friends, I'm excited, beyond excited, to enter into the announcements of this year's 6th annual MyLife Chassidus Applied contest winners. Let me just say as a short introduction, first of all, it's been beyond exciting, beyond nail-biting, and very dramatic, and I would say even more than all previous years. First of all, the amount of essays that have come in are so much larger, and the quality of essays. I have to say, I've heard it from the judges, I myself reviewed and saw essays that were, almost impossible to, how do you determine two excellent essays? And remember, they can be excellent. It's not a right and wrong essay. So it was a very difficult process, but we have to make the process, and I would believe that every one of us is a winner, every one of you. An additional element that this year really took it to a whole other dimension was the involvement of the schools. Schools all over the world participated, and they participated not just by pushing it to their students, but actually establishing mentors that helped guide the students, and did everything possible to push it among their students, and also in some cases as well are adding to the prize to the prize that the main prize that we're offering, that they're having in their in-school winners, the winners of their particular school. So we'll be starting with announcing the winners of each one of those schools. And I want to also, before we go further, thank the director of this contest, Rabbi Yisraeli Steiner, who I must say, beyond any expectation, really took this to a whole different dimension. Of course, with our help of our other staff, I want to mention Gani Goodman, the director of the Meaningful Life Center, the judges, which I'm not going to go into every judge detail, but the effort that was placed by people and the commitment was tremendous. I was myself inspired. And again, I cannot say much about mivtza shvachi b'fanav, Rav Yisraeli Steiner, but he really took it to a level that we were meticulous. The communication with the schools, the communication with the Israeli chapter. We had Rabbi Dovela Halperin in Israel, directed the cause in Israel, where we only see potential of more growth and more growth, as you'll see reflected in many of the winning essays and the submissions. And as I said, this has just been, what an experience. Hundreds and hundreds of essays of people of all walks of life, men and women, taking time and energy to invest in taking idea of Chassidus and applying it to a life situation. And the essays I read, I'm literally mind-blowing. Lessons for each of us, and everybody can use them in their own particular way. We will be publishing these essays. First the winning essays, and then as we go along, as we've been doing the previous years, reviewing the essays in order as they were marked. So, I'm excited to begin now with the in-school winners. And I'm going to read the school, and I'm going to read the winner of the school. And we thank them tremendously for this partnership. So, this is Beis Chaya, Coral Springs. The winner in that school is Chaya Mushka Chadakov, Coral Springs, Florida. Beis Chaya Mushka Seminary, Montreal. And the winner of that school is Chana Lazar from Canada. Beis Chana Tzfas. Now, Beis Chana Tzfas went a step further. They actually published a book that I showed you last week, and here it is again. Of all the essays of their students, half in Hebrew, half in English. So here we'll be reading the top 3 students, winners in English and in Hebrew. So in English, the top 3 were Shana Slavin from Sydney, Australia, Mina Zalmanov from Hollis Hills, and Mina Phillips from Worcester, Massachusetts. The 3 Hebrew ones were Dvere Dverele Garelik, Bushke Malka Deko, I hope I pronounced it right, and Chana Esther Cohen. Next school, Beis Chana, Orange, Connecticut. Geula Azagui, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Beis Chomish, Toronto. Menucha Rochel Dubinsky, Newton, Massachusetts. Bnei Chaya, Albany. Ita Gordon, Albany, New York. Lubavitch Girls High School, Chicago. Chana Schusterman from Chicago. Machon Alta Seminary, Israel, Rifki Rosenwasser from Miami, Florida. Oyel Chana, Melbourne. Shira Adina Zigelbaum from Miami, Florida as well. Beis Rivka High, Melbourne. Chana Block, Australia. Melbourne Yeshiva. Aden Zev Moshel. Beis Rivka High, Montreal. Sterna Sarah Shiner from Canada. Oyel Chana High School, Los Angeles. Malka Bracha Heidingsfeld from Santa Monica, California. Teferes Bachur in Morristown. Noyach Kane, Morristown, New Jersey. Torah Academy Girls High School, Johannesburg. Esther Rivka Rodel from South Africa. I'm told that many girls participated in a very heavily contested school camp because it's the summer there in South Africa. Yeshiva Darke Menachem, Crown Heights. Shmuli Katzoff from Brooklyn, New York. And finally in the schools, Machon Liadus, Crown Heights, Chava Levine, Brooklyn, New York. I can't tell you the amount of nachas, the amount of pleasure I have just reading this. All these different schools, all the students, the future of our people, the future of Chabad, the future of Chassidus, doing these essays, and here you have it. And we honor them all, and they should only grow in their learning and in their writing and in their teaching and influencing people around them. There's nothing like writing a paper. It helps you the rest of your life in communicating and applying and guiding people, and I'm sure each one of these students will, in their own way, perform that shlichus as they grow and they graduate and move on to their next stage in life. Of course, preparing us all for the Gula Amitis of Ashlema. And now that we did the schools, now remember, as far as the prizes go, there are 3 top prizes, plus a special student prize that comes from one of these schools. Okay, so now we're going to do a countdown from the top, we'll do the top 32, simply because there were scores that were so close and some of them tied. The top 32 scores. I'm going to count them down. And this is the first time that I'm aware of the winners, as well as you. This is something that we just in the last few hours determined. So we're all into the same surprise and celebration. Okay, are you ready? Here we go. So we had essays both in English, Hebrew, and Russian. And the winners, the top 32, I should say, remember all of them are winners, are, I believe, in Hebrew and in English. So starting counting down from number 32, Yisrael Yitzchaki actually wrote an excellent essay, but it was very long. It was over 15,000 words. And as much as we would love to have been able to give him a much higher mark, we could not, simply because of the length, but it must be mentioned. And he wrote about Tipul Chassidi Integrativi, and the way Chassidus intervenes in an integrated way. He is a worker, a social worker in Rishon LeZion, Yisrael Yitzchaki. Number 31, Chanala Wilhelm from Milford, Connecticut, the co-director of Chabad of Milford, and her topic was Get Real. Number 30, Dan Lewin, Dallas, Texas. The Mayan Chai Foundation, a rabbi there, titled Chassidic Mindfulness, a Purposeful Tranquility. I usually mention the ages, so I want to start again. Yisrael Yitzchaki is age 29. Chana Willem was 35. This one that I just Dan Lewin, age 44. Number 29, Yochi Res, South Africa, a psychologist, age 41. His essay is Human Doing. Discover your true essence, a human becoming. Number 28, Noach Kane, Morristown, New Jersey, age 23. Transcending Conflict. Number 27, Chana Peterson, Israel, the Click Company designer, age 25, and her title of her essay, A More Perfect Union, a Chassidic Approach to Conflict Resolution. Let me mention, these essays, all of them, are top essays, received highest marks, and sometimes it's just fractions of points that makes the difference between one and another, but this is among hundreds and hundreds of essays. But we had to use some system, so this is the system we're using, but I wanted to make sure that that's emphasized. Despite the number, these are all top essays. Okay, next, number 26, Michal Turnheim, Israel, 12th grade, Tichun Beis Chana Yerushalayim, Hanesina Keklei L'Shinui Ha'atzmi, giving as a vessel for fundamental change. It's a Hebrew essay, of course. Number 25, Avram Friedman, Israel, Yeshivas Tem Chitmim Tveria, age 20, Zahuis Ha'ishit, Haderech L'chaim Shel Osher, the human personality, the way toward a prosperous life. Number 24, Chana Esther Cohen, USA, Seminar Beis Chana Tzvas, again in Hebrew, age 18, Teichecha Melev Elev Matzlicha, whether rebuke from heart to heart, is it successful? Number 23, Rivka Cohen, United Kingdom, UK, Shlucha, age 34, and her essay is, What Will the Neighbors Think? Number 22, Gavriel Eagle, Baltimore, Maryland, Yeshivas Beis David Shlema, age 17, titled Battling the Butterflies, a Chassidus-based approach to curing social anxiety. Number 21, Shmuel Albaim, Israel, Hebrew essay. He's responsible for editing on the website called Chassidit.tv. Age 40, Mindfulness Chassidi, a Chassidic mindfulness. Number 20, Yitzi Tuvel, age 30, Navigating the Many Waters of Millennial Life. Number 19, Avram Friedberg, Canada, Sales Coordinator, AF Enterprises, age 51, Reshaping Your Beliefs. Number 18, Menachem Mendel Amitai, Israel, Yeshivas Temchet Tvim Lebavitch Rishon LeZion, Misam Pella Odom, age 24, Misam Pella Odom, a Hebrew essay, means from the Pasuk in Shmais, who then gave a man a mouth to speak? What Hashem says to Moshe. Number 17, again in Hebrew, Uriah Maimon, in Israel, Michlalas Shanan Haifa, Shanan Michlalas, a seminar in Haifa, Dachaf Mul Dachak, Shinui Te'adati Litmodadut Yaila in Matzave Lachatz. Pressure versus, negative pressure. How to deal with a pressured situation. How to make fundamental change in a pressured situation. Tools for that. Number 16, Yisrael Dandrovitz, Israel, Reish Beis HaMedrash Be'er HaOvis, age 41, Hisalmus Vatchoke Kepisin Affectivi. How ignoring something or pushing it aside is a solution, effective solution. Number 15, we're down to number 15 now. Mushke Malke Dekel, Israel, Seminar Beis Chana Tzvas, in Hebrew, B'mokim Niskasher Ulei Poshet Niskasher, age 18, instead of connecting, maybe we should connect. H is a loose translation. Number 14, Yisrael Binunsky, Israel, Yeshivas Temchitvim Kvar Chabad, age 18, Shlita Atzmis, fundamental self-control. Okay. Actually, 1 second. 15, 14. Let me just, the numbers here are a little. Okay. So I did just now Shlita Atzmis, right? Okay, we're up to now number 13. Shana Slavin, Australia, Beis Chana Tzfas Seminary, age 18, apathy, who cares? Number 12, Chana Lazar, Canada, Beis Chaya Mushka Seminary, Montreal, age 20, her title is Back and Forth. And number 11, Sarla Ben Shimon, Canada, Beis Rivka Academy, a teacher, age 30, I'm not a doormat, the quality of self-confidence. Now we do the final 10, the top 10. Okay, Levi Wilhelm, Israel, Yeshivas Chabad Tzvas. Egoism mibaya el pitrana. Egoism from problem to solution. Age 17, Levi Wilhelm. Number 9, Menachem Mendel Dekel, Israel, Temchet Mimim Tveria, age 21. Model Alef Beis Alef, Hatshuva Chassidus Lafrois Hacherda Be'elamenu HaModerni. A model Alef Beis Alef, the response, the Chassidic response to the disturbances that we have from the modern world, the fear that we have in the modern world. Number 8, Aaron Zev Moshel, Australia, Melbourne Zal, age 17, Chassidic lessons on growing through trauma. Number 7, Dveri Garelik, or Dveri Garelik, Israel, Seminar Beis Chana Tzfas. Kosher Ze Hakala Chadash. Difficult is the new easy. Age 19. The next, number 6. Shraga Crumby, New Brunswick, New Jersey, a shliach and Beis Chabad in the university at Rutgers University. Pnimius, Hapitaron Hachsidi Lemagefis Hascapism. Pnimius, internalness, is a Chassidic solution to the epidemic of escapism. Okay. So now we are down to the 5, and I will begin with the student winner. The student track had its own particular winner, and the student winner of this year's contest, 2019, Tovshin Ayin Tes, is Aryeh Yenison Chadad from Israel, Yeshivas Temchet Mimim Amerkozi 770. He wrote Haderech Li'imana Medimoy Atzmi Nomuch V'Kabbalas Motivatzi B'Avedas Hashem. The way to avoid from self-delusional, low self-esteem, and being able to get motivation in serving God. That's the winner of this year's, student winner of this year's contest. And now we'll count down the 3 top winners. Actually, third place, there's a tie, so it's 4. And the student winner, of course, receives $500. The third place will receive $1,000. The second place, $3,600. And the first place, $10,000. So here we go. Third place was tied. Mushka Silverberg from Lincolnwood, Illinois. Teacher, Lubavitch Girls High School. Her essay, The Essential Yes of a Strong No. She's age 22. The third place, the tie for third place, Adel Cohen from Brooklyn, New York. She works at Mobstop Customer Service, age 24, rediscovering the joy of giving. Second place, $3,600 winner, Ariel Neve, Israel, age 44. Hadrachas Teres Achsidis Benegei Letipul Bepachad V'chered B'ashval Lemekedes Teronim Kedmim V'chen Lepsychologia HaModernis. The way, the direction from Chassidus, how to deal with fear and fear and fright in comparisons to other sources in Torah and also modern psychology. And finally, the first place $10,000 winner, Ayelet Skinner from Southfield, Michigan. She works face a medical esthetician, age 48, and her title is Ageless. And that's the number 1 winner of this year's contest. As I said, these winners are literally decimal points apart from each other. It was extremely difficult to choose, but we had to choose. And I congratulate you all, beginning from the first place winner, the second place, the 2 third place winners, the student winner, and all the others that I mentioned, and all that contributed and all that participated. As I said, from my point of view, you're all winners. We will review these essays in the coming episodes. We will post them, so stay in touch. Keep your eyes open. You'll see them online. We'll be sending out information on them and be publishing them. Tremendous essays. Again, I have no words to describe my joy for all of you and for this effort that we all did together. Yefutzu ma'nesecha chutza, which will bring Osimah da Malka Mashiach in this month of Nissan, as we prepare for Yud Alef Nissan and prepare for the Geula of Pesach. Nissan nigalu b'Nissan asidun liga, that we should be zeich already to the Geula Amitis v'Ashlema with this additional effort that all of you invested, that the Eibishter should see it, that Rebbe should see it, and finally bring the Geula Amitis v'Ashlema even before Pesach. V'nechol sham in azvachim in apsachim in Yerushalayim ir HaKedesh, with the Beis Hamikdash HaShlishi, as the Rebbe would always give us a bracha. Everyone have a kosher and a freilich and Pesach. We will not have a program, of course, next week. The next one will be 2 weeks from now. A kosher and a freilich and Pesach and a Geula Dika month. And thank you again. This has been MyLife Chassidus Applied, episode 257, announcing the 2019 winners. And we're here every Sunday, 8 to 9 p.m., except, of course, on Yontif. See you soon, and a guten Yontif, a kosher and a freilich and Pesach.